Hey everyone, today I am going to talk to you about the Internet of Things and how this can be used within healthcare. So, what is the Internet of Things? It's really the Internet. It's any device that can connect to the Internet, it can connect to a server, connect to the cloud, it can connect to something, and then it can be used to automate a process or send data or receive data or do something without human intervention. The Internet of Things in healthcare versus in the real world is the same as that. It's just what is the use case and what are the types of devices that we're going to be using, and how are we going to be receiving that? Would this be on a proprietary network, or would this be on a cellular network, or what? Would this be local to the hospital or whatnot? So from the current state of technologies, the devices all utilize the same types of connection devices, and that would either be 5G, which is not so much widely adopted yet, and it's pretty expensive to send data, but you're gonna be able to send and receive large amounts of data. You have 4G, which is widely adopted and is relatively cheaper because it's already been rolled out to most of the settled areas. You have 3G that's going to be older technology, less used because 4G has replaced it, and 5G adoption, but still is going to be able to send larger amounts of data and is going to be able to send and receive. And then we're going to have things like more like Wi-Fi. This could be local Wi-Fi or a guest type of Wi-Fi or a personal Wi-Fi or hotspots, being able to utilize cellular to turn it into that type of a coverage. That's going to be able to send and receive large amounts of data, but it's going to be confined to specific places and specific devices. And then you have Bluetooth, that would be specific devices connecting to one another, and that would be through a range of about 30 feet. You'll also have things like a local area network that you'd have a hardwire, and these could be powered by the LAN, and it's going to have higher speeds than the others because it is going to be a hardwired connection, and all the way out to radio frequency, and then radio frequency booting off of the internet, kind of like the Helium network, or utilizing LoRaWAN technology, where you can broadcast a radio frequency a mile to 2 miles, as opposed to Wi-Fi that would be mostly the size of a residential house. And that is going to be able to send and receive smaller amounts of data, but over a larger area. That can be used for geolocation. It could be used for sending and receiving sensor data. There's a lot of use cases for that, or just asset tracking of assets. So when we look at the types of devices that we have in healthcare, we're not going to see a huge transformation, especially the devices that are going to patient care devices, just because a lot of them are FDA approved and they have to go through a scrutiny of tests in order to be able to be used in patient care. But we do have a number of devices that don't need that, and those can be things with like sensors or RFID tracking, person tracking. There are cheap sensors that can be used that can send small amounts of data, but very useful data, to servers that can have algorithms that run in on them and be able to send and receive information and then alert things or alert people to go and act on something that takes place. The costs of that for a proprietary network to implement could be substantial, or it can go off of existing, so it really depends on what we would be using. From near term, this type of information, whether it's patients sending in information into the EMR, or the EMR aggregating information being input by point of care devices, so that they're not waiting to be sent, or they have to be being sent information whenever they go on a dock, more of that real-time information. And then also at the device level, we're able to send the vital signs at the device instead of waiting for someone to go and manually input this. Or it's the smart pump, and the smart pump's able to send that information of what the nurse is actually changing on the pump, and that's being sent into the EMR and being sent to pharmacy real time. So it's more of that ability to connect all of these things so that they can have a lasting impact on the organization from a financial perspective, whether it's assets or pharmaceuticals, or making sure that we're having less documentation within the EMR so nurses can focus more on their charting, or less on their charting and more on their patient care. And then also just the ability to track more data so that we can address things. From a concerns perspective, I think a lot of this is going to stem off of the things that we do with data sharing today, whether for patients sending in their data, they're opting in or opting out of HIEs or that kind of stuff. So I think that would probably line up with what we would do today. And then the other stuff would be our own asset tracking, our own information, and how we were able to use and adopt that in our own workflows of the hospital, to address any of our financial and economical plans. Make sure that we're not losing money on having to repurchase equipment that we actually know we own, but we don't know where it is, or being able to have less audits, manual audits, and more sensors auditing what our staff are doing and making sure that they're doing it correctly, and having that data so we don't have to have somebody manually going back or manually abstracting or manually watching hand hygiene and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of things that can be used with the Internet of Things. I think it's going to be really exciting to see what we can do and see how the creative people can be utilizing this information.